Welcome back to At the Heart of Health. We're talking today with Steve Gallimore. He's had 20 years of a pastor and administrator, and he's currently president of Life Talk. Life Talk is one of the co-producers of At the Heart of Health. We're so glad that he's joined us. And Steve, we've been talking about uniqueness in healthcare, and there's many types. There's a place for modern medicine, there's a place for herbs, there's a place for diet, and in this world, it's very confusing. It's well marketed and everyone has their point of view. But what we want to accomplish is at the heart of health is give God's point of view. And we're talking today about Luke, who was a physician that gave up his practice. He found that love was a treatment, and it looks like from our last segment, praise is a treatment for disease. He knew what was going on. And he also did some unique things with medicine that we might not pick up in the Bible.
Well, he did. When we think about medicine, of course, as you've already described, it's really a broader concept. It's not just going in and say, okay, I have this sickness right now. I need some type of medical treatment that will relieve me of that sickness. But of course, we want to think of staying well and never getting to the place where we need that. Now, we do live in a world that is a sinful world. Sickness is going to occur. There's no way around that. But what we find, I think, that is so beautiful in Luke, this book written by this physician, is that Luke really specializes in making the heart feel better, which, of course, brings us to the place where physically we are better. Not that it takes care of everything, but it certainly gives us a step in the right direction.
And who would know better than the Creator, than the God of the universe, to teach us about healing? And I just find it so unique that Luke had the opportunity from the Greeks to learn some of the best medicine ever out there. And yet, who did he choose to follow to learn about healing? Now, if I was the evil one, what I would try to do is corrupt the world with thinking, oh, we have to have modern technology, we have to have this, and lose focus of true healing, of ultimate healing. Everyone's going to get sick, but it's how do we handle the short-term and the long-term healing? And I think Luke, in the some of his stories, is just amazing.
The story of the widow of Nain is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. I really like this one because what Jesus had done, he had spent a day at Capernaum, there on the northern end of the Sea of Galilee, and the Bible says that Jesus had healed everyone that was sick.
Wow.
So anyone that was brought to Jesus had been healed.
It was neat because of physical and spiritual sickness, right?
Yes, absolutely both. Well, I mean, it was there on that seaside that he gave the Sermon on the Mount, for instance. But he healed all of these people that were brought there. And the people, of course, were so excited. They waited up all night for Jesus. The next morning, he got up to leave early to go to this little place of Nain. And the multitudes followed him. And what a scene that must have been. All the people, the older people, the middle-aged people, the little boys and girls, the little babies, all following Jesus. And this was a long journey. Jesus was embarking on a full day's journey, but yet he was traveling with this great group of people. But it helps us understand the response of people to Jesus. It wasn't just that Jesus was an intellectual teacher. Jesus, of course, was brilliant. I mean, he was God, and he could teach like no one else has ever taught before. But that wasn't why people followed him. They followed Jesus because he had the human touch. He touched their hearts. He touched their lives. And they traveled with him. This was a tough journey. It was rocky. It was steep. And the people went with Jesus to the city of Nain. But what really transpired that is so, I think, enlightening to us is that as Jesus got close to the city of Nain, there was a group coming up out of the city. And it was a group that was very, very sorrowful. At the head of the group was a lady that had lost her son. And she had been up that hillside probably not too long before with her husband. And now going to the cemetery that was at the top of the hill outside of the city of Nain. And as this group was going, they were preceded by mourners, these paid mourners, and they would scream and yell, just almost a hopeless situation. And it kind of helps us understand it wasn't just an expression of sorrow of the heart, but it really was a hopelessness that the people of the day of Christ had. It shouldn't have been that way because the Old Testament is full of hope, but the people didn't see it, and they didn't see Jesus either. And so Jesus came that day to the city of Nain to do something for that lady, but he also went there, more importantly, I believe, to do something for all of us. And when he met this lady with these mourners coming up the hillside, And they met now with Jesus and the group that followed him. Remember, Jesus had healed everyone in that group. You can imagine what a group of rejoicing that was. And now coming up, he met with this group of sadness.
Mourners, happy? Oh.
Mourners and sadness. There is not a more dramatic picture that I can think of anywhere in the Bible. Because here we have this group of extreme joy in the presence of Jesus being met now by one that had been conquered by the prince of darkness, Satan. And it was a despondent, a sad, mournful group. And now they came face to face. When Jesus looked at the widow and the mother, now, Jesus, the Bible says, he uses the strongest term that can be used in the Greek language in the New Testament. It says that his heart was moved. But it's more than that. It was like it was moved deeply, deeply, deeply. You know, English sometimes will repeat something for emphasis. And the heart of Jesus was moved. I don't even know that we have in English a word that's strong enough to really reflect what is said here in the Greek. But Luke uses that word. He says the heart of Jesus was just dramatically, deeply moved when he saw this lady. Then he said to her, "Don't cry." Well, that's not a very good thing to do when someone's sorrowful. But see, Jesus knew. And I think Jesus is saying to all of us, yes, we sorrow, as Paul says, but not without hope.
Right. What a powerful story.
So here's this little boy that had gotten sick. The physicians couldn't help. And he was laying there dead on this wicker basket. And Jesus then says to the mother, "Don't cry." And he goes over to the little boy and says, "Sit up." Now, Luke uses a medical term for a person that had been ill, that now was to the point where they could sit up again. And so Luke uses that technical medical term to describe what happened. The little boy, dead on the wicker basket, Jesus says to him, using this medical term, "Sit up."
Wow.
And of course, he sat up. You know, what I think is so important to me about this story is that what Jesus did there that day brought rejoicing, obviously, to both groups now. I mean, can you imagine going back down into the city of Nain?
Oh, everyone.
There wasn't a group of sadness anymore.
No.
Jesus gave there hope to all of us that he really is the resurrection and the life. And those that trust in him and believe in him someday will have healing, just like that little boy was healed. He was resurrected, but he was healed as well. Now, he died again, though, Jim.
Yes.
At least there's no Bible record of that boy that Jesus brought back to life being translated and going to heaven. He died again.
Wow.
So Jesus, even though he worked that miracle, it was a temporary miracle. I believe there are three things that happen, Jim. God gives us physicians. They're very important. God gives us divine healing, intervention healing today as well, to restore those in a miraculous way that medical science can't touch. I believe, however, that the ultimate healing is when Jesus comes again and restores everything back to its pre-sin state.
Yes, yes.
And then we'll all be with Jesus, and no more sickness, no more death, according to the book of Revelation.
You know, and in this day and age, Steve, I think it's now more important than ever that we step out and we tell people what true healing is.
Right.
You know, it's a balance. There's a place for modern medicine. There's a place for chiropractic. There's a place for naturopathic medicine. But at the heart of health, at the heart of it all, is this love that we've seen that Christ has showed us in the Bible. What a way to evangelize the world as they learn about, you know, a God that wants them to be healthy. All these suggestions in the Bible he's given us because he wants us to feel well.
Right. Without doubt. And so when we look at Luke and we see Luke with all these stories about healing, touching people whose lives couldn't be touched, it's no wonder that in Luke we find all the praise. You know, this great book of praise. Those that have been sinful, their sins are forgiven, according to Luke. Those that have been physically afflicted in some way, their disease has been taken away by Jesus. We find these stories all through the Gospel of Luke. Those that have been thrown out of society that no one wants to have to do with, you know, they're not on the upper crust, they're the outcast. All of that went away with Jesus. And so Luke portrays then all of these things that can bring healing to people to say, I am of value in the sight of God. And it really is God that brings the final and the ultimate healing, not only of the heart, using the heart metaphorically, but also of the body as well.
Well, this group I guarantee you, their blood pressure came down, their risk of heart attack came down, all these markers that we follow in people that are under stress, it all got better. Not because of prescription medicine, because they understood they had experienced the love of Christ in their life.
Right.
This is very powerful.
Well, it is. And I think everyone should spend some time in the Gospel of Luke, because what it does, it relieves all these stressors of life. Now, when I say all, I don't mean to be, to overemphasize something, because all of us still have to pay our bills. But it does relieve us of some of those main stressors of life.
And that's one of the treatments in the Bible. As we worship, come unto me, worship me, and I will give you rest, rejuvenate the tissue. Unfortunately, we are all out of time. At the Heart of Health, we seek to be unique in that we use the Bible as a source of truth. We're going to bring in healers from all walks of life, but ultimately we're going to get back to the source of truth, as we discovered today in Luke. God is a source of love. At the heart of health is love. Please join us next time on At the Heart of Health.